Transfer portal, of course, is all the rage, but high school football recruiting is still the lifeblood. We will run down both here for the next few minutes at Hawkeyes Live, right here at the Voice of College Football, each and every Tuesday with you, presented by FanDuel. Corey Bretta just doesn't necessarily look different this week. That's Elliot Clough, of course, filling in. We appreciate Elliot stopping by, Hawkeye Insider on 247 Sports. Elliot, how's it going?
Good. No, yeah, Corey just got a lot better looking since the last stream.
I thought he might check out this live stream, so I didn't want to say that, but
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how you been?
Busy days, man. Busy days. I was just telling you, we're in the process of buying a house, and my fiance and I, and obviously middle of basketball season, coverage of high school stuff doesn't stop. Now that I'm with, as you see there, prep hoops, prep red zone. So a busy time in the midst of this huge cold front in Iowa too. So we're making it work, and I'm happy to connect with you again, since it's been, how long has it been? Do you know? A couple months?
I don't know. Sometime
It's been a
during the
while.
football season, probably.
Yeah.
We had you on. And when you say cold front this week or last week, you could be anywhere in the country and just say cold front, and everybody's covered pretty much.
Right,
So
right.
It got crazy.
They got to -10 here in Iowa. Had to, one of those days where you have to go out and start your car just to make sure the stuff gets moving and everything like that.
Well, I hate to top that, Elliot, but it was 48 for a high here in Florida today. So
wow.
Coldest day of the year.
Really suffering there, Mark.
Blue skies, but 48. So a lot of people are complaining. I hit the gym yesterday, and the guy that takes my badge and so forth said, it's going to be cold out there. It's going to be pretty brutal this week. So, stay warm.
Talk to me about staying warm.
I've lived it basically my whole life. So I totally get it. Totally get it. Let's dive into, before we go recruiting class and transfer portal, since we haven't talked since the end of the season, have you seen a season like that? Because I know you got to make the plays to win the games at the end of each ball game. But in terms of, oh my goodness, the Oregon game could have been won like 8 different ways. The Indiana game, who knows if Mark Gronowski doesn't get hurt, Drew Stevens misses a field goal. Caden Weegen's foot is out by that much against USC at the 5-yard, just over and over. They were just that close. Have you seen a season like that?
I'm a Chargers fan, so I was a fan when they had the top defense and the top offense and the worst ranked special teams in the country, in the NFL. So I've seen something kind of similar. I'm also a UNI fan, actually, from right up the road, and I saw them lose a 12-point lead in 40 seconds in the NCAA tournament. So I've seen some things. It's like a Vietnam vet. You make eye contact with somebody, it's like, oh, I know you've been through it. But to see an entirety of a season like this was, a season of what if is really what I just kind of keep going back to. It's tough. I mean, and not only that, but like to see it go so well over the last month, then play so well over the last month of the season, with Gronowski and the passing game really starting to go and the running game complementing it, of course. And the defense, the Mike linebacker, the linebacker position, more so the Mike linebacker, which is the most important position in the defense, wasn't stellar all year, right? Jaden Harrell had a rough start to the year. Jaden Montgomery got more comfortable, I think, as the year went on. He was more natural, I think, at the position with his movement. And I think his instincts, that's the word I was going for. His instincts were better, quicker, and so that was positive. But the passing game really excelled over probably Nebraska, and then against Vanderbilt. And Mark made some throws that he just was not making in the first half of the season. Of course, there's the Indiana game where he gets hurt at the end, and that's probably the biggest what if of the season right there, because Mark's going to complete that screen pass to Kamari Moulton, and Kamari Moulton probably scores. Now, Indiana might have rallied right back, of course, like they did, even with hitting Surratt, and he scores. And but Iowa wouldn't have had to be in that all-out blitz situation necessarily at the same time. So there's that. There's Oregon, where Dante Moore just throws a dime. I don't know that I've ever seen a pass miss a DB just narrowly. So it's just a season of what if. I mean, it's one of the worst ways for fans to cope through a season like this. But best 8-4 team in the country, I guess. Like that was a college football playoff worthy team, in my opinion. Whether or not they're super competitive in the first round, whether or not they match up with an Alabama or whoever it is, or I mean the national champs again in Indiana or Miami as they were rolling. Who knows how it turns out? But I mean, two plays go differently, and they're 10-2, and either in the conversation or in the playoff. And we're talking about this season very differently. Mark Gronowski very differently. Even when he did some awesome things this season, running the ball and towards the end of the season, passing the ball too.
Corey and I had our weekly debates about Gronowski because at some point I just kept telling Corey, he's really just not that good. He's just a runner and he's really not that good. And I don't want to pile on the guy because it might be injury related from the offseason, but during the home stretch, yeah, better and just better and better and more comfortable. And by the Vanderbilt game, he was throwing some lasers. He looked like he was just a different guy, just loose and just like the velocity and the trajectory and accuracy. The whole deal was just different than it was before.
I think it was a conglomeration of a few things. It's missing the spring. It's recovering from that shoulder surgery, right, which he was doing during the spring. It's that knee injury that he had. And I mean, he had played he'd played Iowa. Like he'd played some Power 4 programs when he was at South Dakota State, right? Not routinely, not every week, but he'd played some really, really good programs like Iowa when he was at South Dakota State, but he didn't do it week in and week out, right? I mean, making that jump is difficult, especially when you don't have, like at South Dakota State, especially when he was there, that's the best of the best in the FCS. You've got G5 probably worthy, if not Power 4 worthy guys at almost every position by way of development. South Dakota State, I saw them as somebody who used to cover UNI, went to UNI. Like I saw Mark specifically rip UNI defenses to pieces, right? And he didn't have that same level of talent. And when you're thrown to guys who are open, it's a lot easier than having to navigate defenses with way better athletes when your athletes aren't as good as they're relative to what they were at South Dakota State, right? And I think, well, getting Reese Vanderzee back in the second half of the season was another thing. DJ Vanami had to become who he was early on in the season against ISU. They didn't have Kamari Moulton, right? So, you could look at it as a bunch of excuses, right? But these are very real things that just came together at an unfortunate time. And at the same time, it's one of those things that might give you some hope for this coming year because Jeremy Hecklinski or Hank Brown will have been around for a year and a half, 2 years, learning the Iowa offense. And this will be the first time under Tim Lester that he'll have had a quarterback that's been in it, that's been through a season even with the twos. And now if it's Hank Brown, 2 springs, if it's Jeremy Hecklinski, at least the spring and the season before taking snaps as the starter. So something that could give you a little bit of hope going into 26.
Gronowski, Caden Weegan, and Carson Sherrar this weekend. Everyone can see them on the NFL Network at the East-West Shrine Game. You bring up the quarterbacks for 2026. I got to say, I was a bit surprised that it's Iowa. So I'm not surprised that they feel good about who they have and they just feel like, hey, we can coach them up, develop them. But just based on lack of experience, and Hank Brown had a couple games at Auburn, didn't look the best. Now he can be a completely different guy after more maturation and so forth. But I thought that they should have went out there and got somebody else. They know what they're doing. They decided to pour resources into other positions. But I did think that they should get a quarterback.
So if Hank Brown or Hecklinski portaled I would have been on that train with you. But I also think Iowa would have done something in that situation because it would have been a different situation, obviously. So now they've got Hecklinski, Hank Brown, Jimmy Sullivan, Ryan Fitzgerald, and Traden Bessinger coming in. Now, I've heard things about Jeremy Hecklinski having more anticipatory throws than maybe some of the other guys in the room. Tim Lester loves to refer to, he goes, Heck's a little ball player now, that kind of thing. And we've seen bits and pieces of it at like the open practice that they had in the fall when Heck hit that. I think it was just a shot to the sideline. And it was incorrectly called out of bounds to Caden Weegan. I mean, and Heck just put it, it was a beautiful ball, just put it right where it needed to be. And if there was replay, I went over that a bunch of times on my own film and other people's, and he was in bounds. And he made a few other plays where, there's a little bit of pressure. He escapes and just puts it right in there. And it's an excitement around the quarterback position that, maybe you got little glimpses of here and there with Brendan Sullivan, because he was more of an athlete than probably a quarterback in terms of his ability to throw the ball. But probably Iowa hasn't had since Drew Tate. And that was the comparison that continued to come up to me from people behind the scenes too, is he's just that he's got that moxie. He's got that belief in himself. He likes to say, some people call me a gunslinger. And that's kind of the reputation around him. And at the same time, Hank Brown is more of the prototypical size thrower of the football that I think Tim Lester is going for. He likes these tall quarterbacks. They just offered a 6'7" quarterback in Florida. And everybody's offering him right now, Davin Davidson. So he's on the rise, but really likes these 6'3" plus guys. Hank has a little more experience on the field, though it wasn't great at Auburn. And from what I was told, he had a pretty good bowl prep too. So that competition, I know a lot of people are writing off Hank Brown because he misses a screen pass when he's thrown into a game against the national champions, and it's just really not fair. He's got a lot of time yet. Heck has a lot of time yet. Jeremy Hecklinski has a lot of time yet. As far as I've been told, this could change in the spring. This could change in camp. This is going to be a competition, but Jeremy Hecklinski has a little bit of an edge. And I think Iowa really wants to see what that competition looks like. And Kirk Ferentz said it prior to this season, is that Gronowski is our starter, but what we're really hoping for is that there is a competition between these two. And because they wanted to start they didn't want to keep doing this 1-year rental thing. And I think it's in a good spot relatively. Traden Bessinger, he's not going to be part of the competition this year. Just too fresh, right? He's not enrolling early either, so he won't be in Iowa City until the fall camp. Jimmy Sullivan, I don't think is going to be part of the competition. Ryan Fitzgerald, walk on. He's not going to be part of the competition unless something drastically changes. But come 27, I think we're going to probably be talking about Traden Bessinger a little bit more too as part of that group, because 4-star recruit, top 100 kid, throws a dot of a ball, throws a strike, but it's a tight ball too. So it's going to be interesting. And I think they feel a lot better about the quarterback room than they have the last 7 to 10 years.
That's a big statement there. That is a big statement. I know the quarterback play has not been the best, especially for about a 5-year window there, but that's still a big statement because of having competent quarterback play this last year. And then I guess before the dry spell was Nate Stanley, who was a terrific thrower of the football, didn't always have it together in a number of ways, but still. Remind everyone that Hawkeyes Live is every Tuesday, typically with Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We got Elliot Clough here from Hawkeye Insider 247 Sports. Not to look ahead or anything, but we see the FanDuel odds with Iowa. You lay down 100, Elliot. 12,500 comes back your way. All they got to do is win the national championship.
Might as well go for it.
Sure.
Or Cohen Entringer in Louisville. Well, that's a possibility.
That's right. And speaking of which, they're tied with Louisville for that dubious distinction of those odds, and also Vanderbilt, by the way, a bit ironic there. So those are the early odds there. Of
Surprised Vanderbilt's odds aren't better considering they finished the season ranked ahead of Iowa.
yeah, what you think of that? That was a bit of a debate out there.
What are we doing? We just saw it. Okay, fine. They're out there tight end, but we just let's all saw it with our own eyes that Iowa beat them and beat them. Not necessarily. I mean, I think convincingly is a strong word because it was relatively close at the end of it.
Sure.
But Iowa was the better team that day.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, and you look at the AP, some of these folks are voting Vandy like 4 or 5 spots ahead of Iowa, or maybe not even having Iowa ranked. What are we doing? You're clearly not even watching the highlights of these games. You're clearly not even looking at the scores. Come on.
Well, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Especially when you break them down individually, you always come up with about 5 or 6 clunkers out there, whether it's the AP or the coaches, where it's like, what are you doing here? You know,
Coaches.
I can respect disagreement that's logical,
Yeah.
but in that case, I got to say, because they had, meaning Vandy, still a 1-game lead in terms of 10-3 versus 9-4, that obviously that's their argument. The argument that we've got with Iowa is, of course, they just played a game, and it was one of the most legitimate bowl games, especially among good teams, that we had the entire postseason. Because, like you say, they only had the tight end out, Iowa nobody out, so really nothing compromised there. And Iowa won the game. Wasn't a blowout, but decidedly the better team had control of the game. Yeah. So we also have basketball to talk about real quick here with the Hawkeyes hosting USC. So 4-4 in the Big Ten. I see the overall record there. So there could be some bubble talk here in the next month to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I do think Iowa's in.
Okay.
I mean, if they, not necessarily based on their current resume, right? They've got to continue to build it, but based on what's ahead, based on what they've already done, to me, they're an NCAA tournament team. And if you win one game, I think there's always going to be detractors out there, but I think Iowa's in a spot where they can win a game, maybe 2. If they make it to the Sweet 16 1 year post Fran McCaffrey, that would be crazy. But yeah, I think they're in a position to win at least one game in the tournament. Of course, a lot of basketball to go yet, but yeah, maybe bubble, but I think they're going to get in.
All right, Elliot, now I got you where I want you with the recruiting and the transfer portal. That's why we got you here. So they lose 14 players. They gain 8. Cohen Ingtringer, I believe, is the one that really surprised everyone. That's the one that hurts in terms of a loss. Jazz Patterson obviously was a meaningful part of this offense at one point. Your thoughts about who's coming in and who intrigues you?
I think those numbers are flipped. One just quick is they added 14 and lost 8. No, you're good.
Okay.
I want to make sure we got that right.
Yeah.
Who they lost first?
Yeah.
Okay. Entringer is, I mean, that's got to be the big one that everybody talks about right now, because I mean, this is the first time I wasn't able to find the exact date, but this is the first time in a while where neither starter at a safety spot is back the following season, because Xavier Wampa is going to the NFL, Cohen Entringer to Louisville. I mean, this season it was Wampa that was back, though he flipped the other safety spot. Then the year prior, Quinn Schulte was there. You just keep going back, and it's like, oh, there's somebody returning. So you don't have that this year because Cohen enters the portal. I think if you asked him, he probably didn't have the season he would have liked. I disagree with that 100%. That comment. I'm sorry. That is just, I fully disagree with that. Okay.
You're going with the true freshman as the answer to that question. Correct?
Yeah. I still would put Hecklinski above.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Bessinger, I'm putting him there first. Sorry. Anyway, that caught my attention. I was like, Jimmy Sullivan. Sorry. Caught my attention for a second, though I do like Jimmy. Jimmy's got a cool story. But Entringer's the one that is going to be the headliner for that reason. Also, Iowa doesn't have a captain coming back now. They lost Gronowski, Logan Jones, Ethan Herkett, and now Cohen Entringer. So all 4 captains graduating or leaving via the portal, which not too often do you see a captain leave via the portal. And so it's an interesting situation there. It'll be interesting to see who ends up on the leadership council, who ends up on as a captain next season. And then you move to Brian Allen because he's one of those more super talented, explosive, violent defensive ends that fits more of a pass rushing sort of mold. And I think that's what he's looking for in that final year, somewhere he can go and put up some stats and get more attention for like NFL wise, because you're not necessarily going to do a lot of that in Iowa's 2-gap scheme, where they prefer to cause disruption by the core of the passing game as opposed to, generating a ton of sacks and teeing off and getting after quarterbacks. That's just not really what they do. And I mean, unless you're AJ Epinesa, maybe Yosei Epinesa, here in the next few years, you're just not going to rack up a ton of sacks at Iowa. That's just not really how they operate. They really operate as a unit. And so I just don't necessarily seeing that come. I don't necessarily blame him for moving. Plus, Iowa's going to be, I think, fairly deep there with the additions of Kamari Brown and Lance Ingold, I guess. But you've still got Kenneth Merriweather. You've got Yosei Epinesa coming up. You've got redshirt sophomores Joseph Anderson and Chima Chinecki, who have started to really figure it out. So I think they're in a good spot there. So losses like Jazz Patterson, of course, going to Michigan State, which was happy to see that. I think that'll be good for him. Just more of a complimentary back to Kamari Moulton. Wasn't getting the carries that he probably wanted. And the timing makes sense for him. I mean, a lot of people would have predicted this last offseason even, or maybe one of the other running backs. So, it could be a lot worse. I mean, like if Cade Pieper or Trevor Lauk entered the portal, those dudes would have gotten paid by somebody. So, I mean, that very easily could have happened. Decided to stay in Iowa City, but and I think what Iowa got in the portal regarding safety is they got 4 of them, right? Tyler Brown, Xavier Stiles, Cody Haddad, and Anthony Hawkins. And I think Tyler Brown is about as good as Iowa was going to get out of the portal at safety. Hard hitter. He'll be good in run support. 80 tackles as a safety is pretty significant. I think Anthony Hawkins is going to be that other starter at the free safety spot. And then Cody Haddad and Xavier Stiles, more so Haddad, probably will be factors on special teams. At least in this coming season. But I think Iowa's in a spot to, if not rebuild, reload at some of these spots that they got some good talent via the portal.
Hawkeyes Live, everyone, every Tuesday, typically with Corey Brada. We got Elliot Clough here from Hawkeye Insider 247 Sports. Join us every Tuesday at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, where it counts. And, of course, Elliot's work at Hawkeye Insider. So 2027 class, we only have 3 commits at this point. They're all in-state guys. So who are the talents in state and otherwise? I see that they also offered a running back out of Pennsylvania this week. Kelvin Morrison, 1,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and his offer list is pretty impressive. Ohio State, Miami, and others.
They've offered so many kids this week. I'm having trouble keeping up. I mean, with Iowa, especially with the out-of-state kids, you just kind of tend to wait until they get on campus before you really start focusing in on them, unless like it's a quarterback like Davidson. I mean, I reached out to him right away because other than him at the time, they only had 3 other quarterback offers out, and all 3 of those guys had committed. So it's a little bit different of a situation. But regarding this class, Gavin Stecker, Braylon Bingham, and I'm forgetting who the third one is off the top of my head.
Jax DeJean.
Oh, Jax.
Yeah.
I'm from the same school district as the DeJean family, right? Like I grew up in Ida Grove.
Well, I pretty much made the connection in regards to last name there for sure.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like I know that family well. So for me to forget that is
okay.
Golly. Anyway, sorry. the two in-state linebackers, Bingham plays safety, but he's going to play linebacker at Iowa. Those are just wins right off the bat. I mean, to get those two in-state guys that grew up Hawkeye fans, and I really think Bingham is super under-recruited. 1A school, a guy who plays quarterback and safety, super fluid, a multi-star athlete or multi-sport athlete, like a star in multiple sports, averages over 20 points a game, is being recruited by Iowa for baseball too, so could end up trying to do both sports. And then Gavin Stecker is just kind of a natural linebacker that racks up tackles. Then you moved to Jax DeJean, and I think he was under-recruited a little bit because people thought he was just going to end up at Iowa. Was considering Michigan, was considering Kansas State until the coaching changes at both of those programs. Ends up at Iowa. I want to see him put his hand in the dirt and block. And he's got natural ball skills. Like the DeJean, the athleticism in that family is legit. I watched their stream of their first playoff game this year, where he runs and he ran a dig route, I think 5, 6, maybe 10 yards out. I don't remember. Ran a dig route hits the top of the route and just breaks it off like it's nothing. Catches a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. That's against 2A competition. It might be a little bit different, but he's 6'5", got that natural athleticism, strength. One thing I keep hearing is, well, he's no Cooper or blah, blah, blah. Well, who is Cooper DeJean?
Really?
He's an all-American at a OABCIG high school. I mean, Jax was just one of those too, but Cooper was an all-American in college. Just had a pick six of Patrick freaking Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Of course, Jax isn't Cooper. God. So anyway, I think to start with 3 in-state kids that are the sort of cream of the crop in that 27 class, all grew up Hawkeyes. I mean, they were pretty easy to crystal ball at 24/7 long before they made their decisions. But yeah, I like all of them. I think they're all going to be great fits. They might not pop right away, especially if you're a linebacker, just because that's Iowa, right? You got a long time. You got a lot of guys to work through before you can see the field. But I really like Stecker, and I really like Bingham, and I think DeJean is just going to continue to fall into that tight end the position and opportunity. He'll have the opportunities. So it's a great start to the class with more to come.
Elliot, we appreciate you being here for us. Corey couldn't make it. Corey's under the weather today, but appreciate you stepping in. And everyone, again, Hawkeye Insider 247 Sports. Anything in particular there that you're working on this week?
I just shared I did an individual grade. It's free too on Hawkeye Insider. Individual grade for each individual edition via the portal, and then an overall grade for the class. Basketball, obviously, tomorrow night. I'm split a little bit with the prep stuff and house stuff going on, but you can follow me on Twitter at Elliot Clough right there as Mark has it, and we'll have all the Iowa content, all the high school sports content there for you as things go on.
All right, Elliot, we will have to have you on more often. That's for sure. We got to get you on here, obviously, sometime this summer and get ready for the 2026 season.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you.
Glad to hear about everything going on good in your life, and take it one step at a time. I know there's a lot to get through there.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Elliot. Appreciate you being here. Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Insider. As we wrap up another Hawkeye show here at the Voice of College Football, this was number 231. And again, Corey Brad and myself every Tuesday, 5 Eastern, 4 Central. Appreciate you being here. Please like and subscribe on your way out. And our next show here at the Voice of College Football involving myself would be coming up here on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, the Buckeye Show over on the Ohio State channel. And then also keep in mind, Hawkeye fans, we've got an Iowa primetime show. It's Hawkeyes primetime Thursday at 7 Eastern, 6 where it counts, 6 Central for everyone there on Thursday night with Zach Heine. He takes your calls. Iowa primetime live on Thursday. Appreciate you being here. See you next Tuesday.